And sure, Merab can look like an absolute cardio freak, marathon runner, world beater against Marlon Moraes, John Dodson, Cody Stamann, but these guys aren't the same. They're so much less dangerous on the feet. They do not have the same ability to just fuck you up out of nowhere like a Petr Yan does, and they just don't have that same gas tank. How many times have we seen people break in front of Petr Yan because they just can't keep up with his forward pressure as well? Merab Dvalishvili has been more successful than any other bantamweight in UFC history at taking people down, with a record of 63 takedowns. Given that, I'm still going to pick Petr Yan to beat Merab, partially due to that statistic right there, and it's in the stat. Why are you taking people down so often and not keeping them there and being able to hold them there? Guys that Merab has taken down throughout his career have had an easy time in getting back up to their feet. And yes, he is an absolutely tenacious grappler. He's a tenacious fighter, a heavy pressure, heavy pace fighter. But so is Petr Yan, and both of these men are going to march forward, and I'm going to give my prediction of who I believe will be able to get the upper hand. Now, I think that this is going to be a risky fight for Petr Yan, but it's also equally as risky for Merab Dvalishvili, and I'm just going to say it now. He is a poor man's Aljamain Sterling in every sense of the phrase. He is. Aljamain Sterling and Merab Dvalishvili. These are the differences between both of them. And Petr Yan has fought Aljo twice. And Aljamain Sterling has taken two different approaches to both those fights. And that gives me even more confidence in how I think Petr Yan's going to be able to win this one. If we're just going to look at Aljamain's second fight with Petr Yan, and we can also just use that as an example to depict Aljamain Sterling's grappling and compare it to a Merab Dvalishvili. When Aljo takes people down, he can keep them there. Aljamain Sterling puts a body lock on guys quicker than the speed of light. Merab Dvalishvili, yes, he is probably the better takedown artist with the better entries, but he does not have the same jiu-jitsu skills on the ground as an Aljamain Sterling, and he also doesn't have the same physical attributes, the length of the limbs to be able to get those body locks, to get in those dominant positions, and to threaten submissions like an Aljamain Sterling. He's also a much smaller man. This guy has been talked about in conversations about maybe moving to flyweight. And on the feet, Aljamain Sterling in that rematch for Petr Yan played the range game. He's able to sit out at range, chuck kicks at Petr Yan, and not have to fear the counters of a guy like Yan and be able to evade after he throws the strikes. Aljamain Sterling was on his bike the entirety of that first round with Yan in their rematch, circling around the octagon, always moving but staying out at range. Merab Dvalishvili does the exact opposite, and he cannot afford to fight the same way because he is much shorter and has a much shorter reach. Aljamain Sterling is one of the guys in that division with a very long reach. I know he's listed at 5'7" and Petr Yan at 5'7.5", but it's like Aljamain is really 5'8" and Petr Yan's more like 5'6" because there was a big height difference between both of them. Now, if you're looking at their first fight, when Aljamain Sterling was throwing the kitchen sink at Petr Yan, he was landing a lot on Petr Yan, and it's not just because Petr struggles with guys with a longer reach. It's also because Aljamain Sterling is an underrated striker. I've never heard anyone talk about Merab Dvalishvili striking in a high regard, bro. And he doesn't have the same output as an Aljo. Aljo gives guys a lot to look at, man. Merab Dvalishvili isn't throwing as many different attacks on the feet, and most of Aljamain's strikes that he's landing are kicks because he can sit out at kicking range, whereas Merab, he's going to be in that boxing range for Petr, bro. Aljo's an underrated striker. He can have more success on the feet with a Petr Yan. Merab Dvalishvili cannot have the same success, not only because of the reach, because he has a lower output on the feet. Sure, he moves around a lot, probably more than Aljamain Sterling, but he's throwing less attacks. Another thing I want to mention is that Petr Yan, when he knocks guys down, he isn't countering. Petr Yan, when he knocks guys down, is going first. That is how he's been able to get basically every single knockdown in his entirety of his UFC career. And that is another thing to be worried about, guys. Petr Yan just doesn't throw that often. And when have we seen a guy like Merab Dvalishvili get hurt? With counter strikes, right? We've seen him get absolutely obliterated by Marlon Moraes in that first round. And it was a counter shot, right? Marlon Moraes slipped, I think Merab's left hook or something like that, and landed a big shot over the top and sat Merab down to his ass, right? That was a really impressive thing that Marlon Moraes did. Petr Yan, sure, he can counter guys, but the strikes that hurt you are when he goes first. Yan hurts guys when he's stepping in with a big combination, when he's moving forward or off the exit of the clinch. That's when he gets people to the ground with a knockdown. Other than that, sure, he'll counter, but you don't really see him drop guys with a counter shot. And another thing that I want to mention is that because his strikes are so few and far in between, if he doesn't go forward in this fight, and if he doesn't let his hands go, then he'll probably lose that round, right? He'll lose a round where he doesn't throw that much. We saw him, even in his first fight with Aljamain Sterling, lose the third round because he barely did anything to Aljo. He landed a couple of good shots. It was the fourth round where he really started landing. And even in the second round, didn't do shit to Aljamain Sterling. I actually gave Aljamain Sterling the second and maybe even the third round. He dropped Aljo in the first round. When he was moving forward, he dropped him with the right hand. And I think Yan will have an easier time closing the distance with a guy who doesn't have a height and reach advantage, so that's good as well. And Aljamain Sterling was gassed, and I don't think Merab Dvalishvili is going to gas as quick as Aljo, although he's never been 5 rounds. I still just don't see him being able to keep Yan down. I don't. He wasn't able to keep down any of his previous opponents except for Marlon Moraes, who is known for gassing out after blowing his wad. And yes, he beat the fuck out of Marlon Moraes on the ground, like really badly. He was vicious in that fight. He dished out a lot more damage on the ground than Marlon did to him in the beginning of the first round. But that is an exception to the majority of Merab's fights, where what he does when he's grappling guys is he gets them down, they get right back up to their feet, he tries to clinch them, he'll throw knees to the body, he'll throw knees to the thigh, like he did against John Dodson, who is a 5'3" man, not 5'6" like Petr Yan. I know both of these guys are short, but that's a big difference. And against a guy like Cody Stamann with the shortest reach in the UFC, when he wasn't able to take him down and keep him there, and Cody Stamann was actually able to take Merab down in the second round and finish off that round with a minute of control time on top of him. When they weren't grappling, he was out on the feet getting stunned by Cody Stamann's 64-inch reach jab, the shortest reach in the UFC. And I think that Merab Dvalishvili is going to get caught because he's going to have to move forward. That is how he sets up his takedowns. He feints his jab. He gives you a lot of looks. He's throwing a lot of leg kicks. And I just know Petr Yan's going to hit him with some big shots in this fight. Merab Dvalishvili has never fought anyone like Petr Yan. Sure, John Dodson hits hard. Sure, Marlon Moraes hits hard, but they're completely different fighters. They are counter strikers to a T. And, you know, John Dodson's 5'3", right? And Marlon Moraes gasses after one round. Petr Yan, yeah, he doesn't throw all that often. And he has a losing style, which is really worrisome because, again, like, if he doesn't land a big shot in the first 3 rounds that's able to wobble a guy like Merab around, he's going to lose those rounds. I still think he's going to tag him, man. Merab has to move forward in this matchup. And Petr Yan moves forward against all of his opponents as well. And I don't think that you guys should be worried about betting on this one, man. I really think Petr Yan has it in the bag, bro. I really do. Because Merab is not that dangerous of a fighter. He really isn't. And I will give some credit to him. He looked all right against Jose Aldo, but I just feel like Jose Aldo was content to let Merab keep him up against the fence, where a guy like Petr Yan is going to do everything in his power to shove you off. When the clinch is broken up, he's going to try to land an elbow. He's going to try to land a knee. And he's going to blitz forward with a beautiful boxing combination that's going to catch Merab off guard. And I've just seen Merab like have such close exchanges on the feet with guys that are like leagues below Petr Yan before that Aldo fight as well. And I just don't see anything threatening for a guy like Petr. I feel like Petr Yan has seen it, and especially when his last 3 opponents have all been guys that are significantly taller and more dangerous than Merab on the feet. Sure, the threat of the takedown definitely makes a difference, and it'll close the gap a little bit, but like Petr Yan's been fighting Aljamain Sterling. He's been fighting Sean O'Malley. He's been fighting Corey Sandhagen. And even if some of those guys were strikers like Sean O'Malley, he was implementing a grappling style to take him down. And then you look at his other 2 training camps before that, well, at least 2 of 3 of them being against Aljamain Sterling, a grappler. And he's a young man. Merab Dvalishvili is not getting any younger. Sure, he's still relatively young, but Petr Yan's just getting better and better. And I don't think he's just going to completely change his style and throw that much more volume, but I just see him getting the better of Merab on the feet, and I see him having a lot of time to get things done on the feet as well. Because sure, Merab Dvalishvili is probably going to take him down. I don't see him holding him down. Not at all. He does not have the same ability to submit guys and keep them there like an Aljamain Sterling. He just doesn't. And I don't think he's going to be able to rack up like 3+ minutes of control time up against the fence. And even if he does, bro, like, I really think that the judges might favor the big shots of Petr Yan before those exchanges even happen. And I think that, yes, Merab Dvalishvili is looking like an absolute savage with his cardio against the fighters that he's up against, but Petr Yan makes everyone kind of gas out. Like, Corey Sandhagen started to dip in his energy as that fight with Yan went on. Aljamain Sterling, in both fights with Yan, started to slow down massively towards the end. And sure, Merab can look like an absolute cardio freak, marathon runner, world beater against Marlon Moraes, John Dodson, Cody Stamann, but these guys aren't the same. They're so much less dangerous on the feet. They do not have the same ability to just fuck you up out of nowhere like a Petr Yan does, and they just don't have that same gas tank. How many times have we seen people break in front of Petr Yan because they just can't keep up with his forward pressure as well? These guys aren't the same. I think he's there to be hit. I think he'll be a sitting duck on the feet in front of Yan. Sure, Yan is not throwing that much volume, but when he does throw, I really think he'll land. I don't see anything special with Merab Dvalishvili's striking defense. And he's making rounds and exchanges razor close against guys like Cody Stamann, bro. I think he's going to get dropped in this fight. And I think that because Petr Yan's style is so like in your face, pressuring you, slipping shots, his head movement is amazing, his ability to defend himself is amazing, I think Merab's going to slow down a little bit. And you also have to take into account that, well, do you really think Merab Dvalishvili is going to fight at the same pace as he always does in his first 5-rounder main event against Petr Yan, who also puts a pace on you? I don't think so. I don't think so. Do I think Merab Dvalishvili is going to turn his pace down just slightly? Yes. Do I think he's going to shoot as often as he does in his other fights? Maybe, maybe not. Even if he does, as I said, Petr Yan's going to keep it on the feet, and he's going to land those shots. And he's going to have moments where he can go forward and blitz a guy like Merab and catch him off guard with his speed, catch him off guard with his hands. And that's when I think he gets it done. I think he will drop Merab in this fight. Do I think he'll finish him? Probably not. I'm going to bank on a decision for Petr Yan. I think he's going to win the 4th and the 5th round because he is like no one else in this division. I mean, he has an amazing gas tank. He breaks guys. He also has a heavy pressure style. It's not like Petr Yan is just this guy that only counters. He isn't. He is a very slow, patient, methodical fighter. He can counter, but he has the success when he moves forward, throwing his combinations. And yeah, when Merab Dvalishvili has to take a break from shooting takedowns, he's going to be out in the open with Petr Yan. He won't be able to sit at range, and he'll have to stand in front of him. And I think he'll get cracked. So I'm going to give Petr Yan one of the first 3 rounds, and then I'm going to give him the last 2. I'm going to pick Petr Yan by decision. I want to know what you guys think. And I think that Petr Yan's also coming back with an absolute vengeance in this fight, right? Because he's lost his last one, and let's be honest, he should have won against Sean O'Malley. He could have won that first round, and he definitely won the second. 3rd round didn't look so great, but nonetheless, I think he won that fight. His fight with Aljamain Sterling was razor close. That early Petr Yan in the early rounds, it does worry me, man. But I just think that Merab is not that dangerous, bro. I really don't. I want to know what you guys think. Who do you think wins this fight? Let me know in the comments. Danger factor is going with Petr Yan. Power is going with Petr Yan. Chin goes with Petr Yan. And Merab, sure, he has a heavy pressure style, but I just don't think he's dangerous enough to finish a guy like Yan on the ground. I don't think he submits him on the ground. And I can't bank on him to steal these rounds, man. Watch that Cody Stamann fight. It was very close. It was very close. And Cody Stamann with his 64-inch reach T-Rex arms was landing that jab and at times stunning Merab. I think Petr Yan's going to be the fresher guy in the 4th and 5th round. And it might look similar to Yan and Aljamain Sterling. I think that's what the first few rounds are going to look like. It's going to look like the Yan versus Aljamain Sterling 4th and 5th round. All right? And then in the later rounds, it's going to look more similar to the Aljamain Sterling and Petr Yan first fight, 4th round, when that illegal knee happened. But everything before the knee. So, yeah, I think it's a safe pick, guys. Petr Yan, that's my guy in this fight. I just don't think it's likely that Merab Dvalishvili can hold him up against the fence and hold him down to be able to rack up enough control time. And on the feet, again, dude, like, he does not have any advantage over Petr Yan in this fight. And Petr Yan has such good takedown defense. If watching fights back mean anything, if styles mean anything, then we should be able to see Petr Yan's skill set and have it triumph over a guy like Merab. Merab just doesn't do enough. He's not as dangerous as he needs to be to take out a guy like Petr. I cannot watch Merab Dvalishvili and tell myself this is a guy that has the skills to beat someone who could be the fucking champ in the division. And Petr Yan is still arguably the best bantamweight. As I said, if watching fights back mean anything, if Petr Yan's specific style that has been proven time and time again is similar, then he beats Merab. That's just how it is. I don't think this is a risky pick. And people that are picking Merab, like, some of them are just picking him because they just don't want to be disappointed, and they're going to pick Merab because if he wins, obviously it's a good look. It's like a hot take, and if he loses, then you're just happy that Petr Yan won. But when we're looking at their skill sets, Merab Dvalishvili is not the same fighter as Petr, and he never will be. Until next time.